that the Messiah, the Son of the living God, the one who would come to save us, to bring us into right relationship with God, to make peace between us and God, to give us eternal life. The Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. The Messiah would be a descendant of David. The Messiah would receive gifts from kings. The Messiah would be a Nazarene. He would be raised in a town called Nazareth. The Messiah would begin his ministry in a place called Galilee, in the land of Israel. The Messiah would heal blind, the deaf, the lame, and the dumb. The Messiah would have his hands and his feet pierced. And the Messiah would be crucified with criminals. Those are only 8. There are over 300 prophecies, all fulfilled by Jesus Christ. Now, what are the chances that one man would fulfill over 300 prophecies written about him before he was born? It's an interesting question. First of all, in this room, is there anyone born in Bethlehem? Are you born in Bethlehem? Anyone? No. No one born in Bethlehem. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. You see, we need to understand probability, mathematical probability. I'll start here. I have 2 points. One is marked and one is not marked. What is the probability? What is the chance of me choosing the right one? 50-50, right? 1 out of 2, 50%. Is that a strong probability, a good chance of me picking the right one? Is it? Yeah, that's a pretty good chance. I picked the right one. Okay, now that's 1 out of 2. What is the probability of a man born to fulfill these prophecies, to live them out, to qualify? I want to find a man who was born in Bethlehem, who was a descendant of David, who, when he was born, kings brought him gifts. He was born in Bethlehem, but raised in a place called Nazareth. He is a rabbi, and he begins his ministry in a place called Galilee, in the land of Israel. He has the power and authority to heal, and he heals people who are blind, dumb, deaf, lame. His hands and feet would have to be pierced, and that he would have to die on a cross, but not alone with criminals. What are the probabilities of one man fulfilling just 8 of the prophecies? I am not a mathematician, but Professor Peter Stoner is a mathematician. He's a professor emeritus in mathematics and astronomy. He called together a group of mathematics students, and they wanted to find out what is the probability of one man in the world fulfilling 8 prophecies. This is the answer. The answer is not 1 out of 2. The answer is 1 out of 10 to the power of 17. Wow. What is that? Can your mind grasp, understand the chance of this happening? He helps us to understand this. You see this state, Texas? It is 696,000 square kilometers. He said that if you take 10 coins 17, how many coins would you have? How many coins is that? He said that if you took the coins, 10 to the power 17, and you put them on the surface, the land of Texas, 696,000 square kilometers, you would stand in 2 feet of coins. That's a lot of coins. Now, he says, we have one marked coin. What are the probabilities? What is the chance of one man fulfilling 8 prophecies? He said, what you need to do is choose a person, put a blindfold on them, take them to Texas. Maybe we'll go to Dallas. Now this person must walk and bend down only one time and find the marked coin. That is the probability of one man fulfilling 8 prophecies. But Jesus Christ fulfilled over 300 prophecies. You see, it seems impossible for this to happen, but through God, all things are possible. And so, he sends his Son to earth. And he wants us to be sure. He teaches us about Yeshua HaMashiach. He speaks through the prophets, and the prophets, they tell us 300 things about the Messiah. And Jesus fulfills them all. Peter Stoner writes, anyone who rejects Christ as the Son of God is rejecting a fact proved perhaps more absolutely than any other fact in the world. It's a fact. It is the hand of God. If we could open our eyes and see the truth and open our ears and hear the truth, we would know God has made it clear to us by just the fulfillment of the prophecies. One of the prophecies, we read, I am your chosen one. You see, the prophet speaks as Jesus, I am your chosen one. I am the Messiah. You won't leave me in the grave or let my body decay. What does that say? We read this and we know that Jesus, he will die and his body will be put into a grave. But we know that he will not stay in the grave. And we know that his body will not rot. That is a prophecy. And so, I will introduce to you more evidence. The fact is that he conquered death. He didn't stay dead. He rose from death. Jesus tells about his death. He says, we are now on our way to Jerusalem, where the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law of Moses. They will sentence him to death, and then they will hand him over to foreigners who will make fun of him. They will beat him and nail him to a cross, but on the 3rd day he will rise from death. Jesus speaks using the pronoun Son of Man. He says, I will rise from death on the 3rd day. We read carefully the history of the last days of Jesus. And we read that when he said, yes, I am the Messiah, he was sentenced to death. And we know that he was flogged by the Roman soldiers, meaning whipped. We will look at this more closely next week. but it was a very popular way to weaken a man before they put him on a cross. They used long pieces of leather with round balls of metal or sharp pieces of bone, and they whipped a man. The Jews said no more than 40 times, but the Romans said more is fine. We know that Jesus spent 6 hours nailed to a cross in the heat of the Palestinian day. And we know that he was speared in the side, and what came out was blood and water. We know this is medical evidence for death. He was then put into a grave, put into a tomb. This is what a tomb would look like in the land of Israel at that time. It's a place to bury the dead. And you can see the round stone that would be put in the doorway to prevent animals from getting in. And this stone would weigh about 1,300 kilograms, 1.5 tons. Jesus' body was put into a tomb. We know that. Here's the evidence. The tomb was empty. On the 3rd day, we know that first one woman and then a group of women went to the tomb, and it was empty. You see, some people say that Jesus was not resurrected, that Jesus did not rise from death in the power and authority of God, that Jesus escaped. He escaped from the tomb. But when we read the history, you will find that medical professionals, they know that Jesus was dead. He had deep cuts and bruises. There was severe loss of blood. He had low blood pressure. He was in kidney failure. He had dislocated shoulders, pierced wrists and ankles, heart failure, and finally a punctured lung and heart. Medical evidence that shows that Jesus, in fact, was dead. We also know that his friends did not steal the body. How do we know that? You see, when you read the history carefully, you know that his disciples believed that he was the Son of God, that he was the Messiah, but they did not want him to die. And when he died on the cross, they thought that was the end. They did not believe that he would be resurrected in 3 days. Jesus told them, "Go to Galilee. I will be there when I rise from death." Did they go to Galilee? No. They stayed in Jerusalem. Why? They didn't believe him. They didn't believe that he would be resurrected. They were so broken when Jesus died, in despair, in darkness. And then when you read the history, you see that these men changed. They would be willing to die for the man called Jesus Christ. Why? Why would they be willing to die for him? Because they knew that he was resurrected, that he was truly the Son of the living God. God. We know his friends did not steal the body. The body was not there. He was resurrected. They were willing to die for Jesus because they were sure he was the Messiah.